I'm Clinton.
I'm Hillary.
And welcome to Black Atlantic. We're a primarily Black Atlantic-centric podcast, website, and media channel with the goal of bringing East Coast POC voices to the world.
You can expect to hear from us every week with guests, segments, panels, roundtables, exploring topics from all over Atlantic Canada.
So be sure to follow us on blackatlantic.ca.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and more.
All right, so amazing. So this is fun for us. This is our guest week. And this week we are going to be talking to Allon McCall. Allon McCall is, I would say now, definitely a New Brunswick native, born and raised in... Hey, I think almost more than half your life now, right?
Listen, man,
born and raised in the... Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, please go.
All right. Okay. There's some controversy around whether or not Allon is a New Brunswick native. But born and raised in, and don't kill me for this one either. Born and raised in the Bronx, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
You've been here for I think over 20 years now,
if not 19. 19 and a half.
Okay.
We haven't reached 2 decades yet.
Okay.
We're almost.
Awesome. But yeah, a musician and producer, also a very interesting person. And we're going to be getting to this conversation with Allon in just a minute. But first off, Hillary, how are you?
Well, you know how I am.
I have an idea.
I have COVID. So what was supposed to be our first in-person episode of this podcast, I came here on Tuesday. I had a sore throat before I boarded the plane. Took a rapid test, which was negative. And before I met you, I did my due diligence because you have kiddos and got 2 positive tests. I'm not holding you accountable for the feelings that I have, but I feel horrible right now. I saw a lot of people, but I did my due diligence, told everybody seems fine right now. But so unfortunately for everybody watching and listening, this was supposed to be in person and a little bit more dynamic, but those will come and they will happen later. But other than that, the time I had outside was fun. It was nice to breathe the New Brunswick air. And one of the big reasons I came was I got to hear my play performed by actual people in the industry in front of me. And it was good enough that they are paying me to keep doing it. So I'm really, really excited. They're planning on mounting it in 2 years' time. I'm a playwright. It's a real thing. I got to hear it at Aberdeen Cultural Center where my mom went to school, and I had a big cry about all of those feelings. And then I cried because I caught COVID. How are you, Clinton?
I'm good. Definitely not taking a responsibility for your catching COVID in any way. Sometimes ignorance is bliss, but in this case, I'm really glad you did that test because, I still haven't caught it and I want to be one of the last. I'm in no rush for that whatsoever. But this week we had plans to go down to Mount Allison University to broadcast and record with the fine folks at CHMA FM, who just picked up our podcast last week. So you could check it out there, chmafm.com or on 106.9 Sackville. But those plans got pushed back, and that's okay. That's just the reality of how life has been the past 2 years. My week has been good. We had a great day today in Sackville. There was a family fun event where we took the kids to do sledding, tobogganing, hot dogs, and maple syrup sticks. If you've never had that, if you're not from Canada, you've never had maple syrup sticks, like this is a annual event. It's pure sugar. It's gross, but it just wrecks your bloodstream for a bit, gives you all this energy, tastes like heaven, and we had a great time doing that. I don't know what else is up with my week, so I'll just skip over me. I'm doing good in general though. What's up?
I will just add briefly that I only had a maple from what I can recall for the first time this year in Toronto. So late to the game, but I don't remember ever having one as a kid, but I had one like in Yorkville.
It's nothing fantastic. I don't even know why it's a thing. When I first saw it, I was like, what is this? Like, what the fuck? Can I curse here?
Oh yeah, we're the same.
Okay.
People.
I was like, what the fuck is going on here? I was like, what is this? And then this was like a school trip. So my first experience with the maple thing was on a class trip with my son when he was very, very young. And I was like, why is this a thing? Why is this a class trip? And why are we here? And they're like, oh no, it's the maple. And they had like this like tray of snow, and they drizzled the maple on the snow, and they had the sticks, and they handed them out to the kids. And I was like, I guess, these kids, they entertain easily. So I mean,
it's a part of our Canadian heritage. It's it's literal gold. It's Canadian gold. They've got like millions of dollars of maple reserves stored in like government buildings just in
Yeah, so
case
I've
the
heard.
world ever runs out of maple.
Yeah, I heard about
This
Really?
is a
and
high
that
priced
heist.
commodity exported all over the
Yeah,
world. Yeah,
I
Canadian
heard
maple
that.
syrup
Yeah,
is the crack. And
it is. She's not
yeah,
wrong.
it's tradition. Like whether it's actually, that's what I was saying, like it's like a sugar rush. It's a flavorful sugar rush that's like, it's great and it's good, and you feel like a lot of Canadians feel like they got to do it at least once a year, and I enjoyed it. But then after, it's always too much. Like it's heavy. It's like a blob of sugar. But that's what I did. The kids liked it. I don't give them too much sugar, but this is a fun event. So yeah, if you're ever in New Brunswick or Canada in the winter, I think you should try it at least once. But enough about that. I think, can we move on from the maple syrup?
Yeah, let's start talking about Allon.
Let's talk to Allon. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Not as engaging as maple syrup sticks, but okay.
No, that's a great introduction to Allon. I've known Allon for probably 7-8 years, and Allon has a lot of strong opinions on a lot of things, including maple syrup. So
Yeah.
this is definitely something I'm excited about. And let's get into the chat. Allon, tell us a bit about who you are and how you arrived in this Moncton, New Brunswick part of the world that you are not a native of.
I was kidnapped. No. Okay. First off, guys, thank you so much for thank you so much for having me on your new platform. I'm very excited for you guys, and congratulations. So I just want to say that publicly on that.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, my story. Well, once upon a time, I met a girl and didn't know she was from Canada. I had no idea where she was from, and I didn't know about Canada because I'm an American, right? So, anyway, met this girl, got her pregnant, and 6 months in, I was like, you know what? It makes more sense to be closer to your family than mine. I'm willing to uproot and move, and so I did. Again, not knowing Canada, not knowing what Moncton was. Still don't know what Moncton is. And I just decided to follow my son, and so that's what happened almost 20 years ago. So I was born in Elizabeth, New Jersey, raised in the South Bronx, and then came here when I was 24, 25 years old. And shock and awe are two words to describe my first impressions of this fair province. But that's basically my coming to New Brunswick story in a nutshell.
So I'm curious, although I do know some of the answers, but I'd love for you to tell our audience, what has New Brunswick been like for you in this 19 and a half, to be quite precise, journey for you?
It's been an interesting, it's been an enigma. It really has, because there's a thing, in the States, you're not taught about Canada a lot, but the one thing you are, I will say, taught or ingrained with is that Canada is this, friendly, neutral place somewhere north. That's what it is. And Canada, when you're in the States, unless you really delve into it, it's not broken down into provinces. It's like this one landmass that's called Canada, and that's it, right? It's not separated into any sort of east, west, central. It's not done like that. And so, coming here and experiencing Canada for what it really is, at least the Atlantic provinces anyway, it's been interesting. It's been interesting because a lot of things have changed, but a lot of things are very much still the same. And it's one of those kind of realizations of it's frustrating because you be here for 2 decades and you raise a child and you still see the same attitudes and the same perceptions and the same we've done podcasts in the past, and the stories that we hear from older individuals of color here in the Maritimes are still resonating with me, and even with younger people of color here in the Maritimes too. The same stories keep happening. And so in one way, like I said, a lot of things have changed and there's been progress if you look at infrastructure and things of that nature, but society and the social fabric and the social interaction between the races and between people still seems to be very much the same, and seems to be stagnant over the course of my 20 years of being here in New Brunswick specifically.
That is definitely a story that we keep hearing all the time. There's always new shocking stories that happen even in 2022, and you're just like, what is going on? Like,
Yeah,
I thought we got somewhere, or I thought society's at least moved past this, but the reality is maybe New Brunswick is really a place that's stuck in the past, even now, like in a bit of a time loop. As much as it has advanced in the past 20 years since I first took a peek at this province, it's still really behind a lot of other places in the world and provinces, so it's
absolutely.
pretty stressful in that regards. um Interesting for you as well, because so you are, how tall are you, if you don't mind me asking?
6'5".
6'5". I'm going somewhere
6'5".
with this,
Okay,
but
okay.
I mean, you are, I don't know if you mentioned this in the intro, but you are a music producer. You've
I
been
am.
a music producer for years. You're from a family of musicians, and you grew up in the South Bronx at a time when hip hop was uh, growing, blooming, and blossoming. And aside from a lot of other very wrong stereotypes that I've heard you tell me that people have about you, um, there's another one that people get wrong a lot. You grew up not particularly a huge fan of hip hop and rap. You liked another form of music. Um, so what was that like for you? Just the
Oh, well, that's a
misconceptions, the
deep
perceived
question. That's a
notions.
deep question because that delves into a whole thing of like inter race nonsense and with black people between you being too white to be black and too that's a very deep question you're asking. But no, I mean, my parents were R&B. My dad was an R&B singer, artist, musician. My mom was a songwriter. So basically, growing up, it was old school R&B from like the '60s, '70s, Isley Brothers, um, Luther Vandross, Anita Baker, all that stuff, right? And then my mom though was more pop. So it was like your Barbara Streisand and your all of your kind of, I guess we'll say, your white pop stuff. So, my mom used to listen to 106.7 Light FM in New York. And so they all played. And so they would play like all of this, the Bee Gees and Streisand and all that stuff. And so, and then you had BLS, that WBLS that played, all of your black urban old school R&B and soul and funk, Cameo and all that stuff. So like I had a very interesting upbringing. And between those two, I ended up falling into the grunge emo section of music, and classical. So those two things are my favorites. And my parents, it's funny because my parents had no idea what to do with me or my sister. They were like, "What the fuck? What happened? Like, where did we go wrong? I don't understand. How do you like?" My dad had a full on meltdown. He was like, "I don't understand. Why are you listening to this screaming music? I don't get it. I don't understand what they're saying." And so anyway, he finally, quick story, he finally, I was like 17, and he finally was like, okay. He's like, I get that you like this stuff. He's like, but you need to understand and learn the history of rock music if you're going to be a fan of rock music. And at the time, PBS, the public broadcasting system or station in New York, had a documentary, The History of Rock and Roll. And this was probably like the late 90s, like 98, 99. And it was a 13-part series. And so my dad and I were not really close and we didn't really get along the older I got. But this was the one time that he and I sat down together and watched something for 13 consecutive nights. And in this, I learned that Black people created rock and that they were instrumental in the foundations of rock music. And so it was, I learned at a very young age that it was okay for me to be a fan of this music and to want to do this music. Now, socially and everything else is a different battle that I've had to fight even to this day. I have a band now called Echo 7, and at first we had a rapper in the group, and every podcast interview that we did, people automatically assumed that I was the rapper. Because how dare the 6'5" black man be the drummer and the songwriter? He must be the rapper. And I was not rapping at all. I knew, that's not that I can't write 16 bars if I had to, but I wasn't the guy doing it. So it's even to this day, you still, even when I do business with the band, it's still, everyone assumes that it's not me. I'm not the guy that you talk to. And my band members like, no, he's the guy you got to talk to. And everyone gets this look on their face like, oh. and and things change. So it's so yeah, so rock music is my love and my passion, and what I really have ended up being good at. And so that's what I do.
That's really interesting because I guess like, so you were being sort of judged by people around you for liking this music that to them, without maybe knowing the history of it, didn't feel black. And this was before high-speed internet and stuff like that. So it might be hard to know that history, for everyone to know that history.
But it's an interesting thing though, man. Like if you look at it, um, I don't understand where that disconnection came, because one of the great, like I only found out literally last year that Slash is half black. The greatest guitar, one of the greatest guitar players of all time in rock history, is a black man.
That's
I only found that out last year, right? Because everyone was making a big deal about how Axl Rose and Slash back in the day were wearing like NWA hats, and they knew Eazy-E and stuff like that, and people were like, "Oh, this is so cool! Like, look, the the melding of like genres," not realizing that I didn't know that Slash was half black. I had no idea. I didn't know until last year.
I feel like if that's the case, though, Slash probably didn't work very hard to let people know that. Maybe his record label didn't want him to, or maybe it was
Slash is a very white looking dude. But the point is, and at the end of the day, he's a black man. And here we have a genre. Oh, go ahead, Hillary. She's going to clarify.
Just confirming, African American mother, British father. But the articles talking about it are like, NME was saying that Guns N' Roses track was racist and homophobic, and he clarified that he was black in 2018. So I don't know how people didn't know until 2018 that he was black.
That's my thing, though, right? That's like you looking at Lenny Kravitz and being like, no, you know what I mean? Like, it's all I'm trying to say is that you look at the Slash is literally considered a guitar god.
Yep. I feel like that's how it is with all genres of music. Like they, all genres of music, almost all genres of music have black roots. Grassroots, funk, country, rock, metal. And by the way, grunge was kind of cool in the 90s. Like I listened to it a bit. Like there's some good in that.
Listen, grunge was great in the 90s when it was done right. There was a lot of shitty grunge, don't get me wrong, but there was a lot of good shit out there. Like it got me through my teen years single-handedly. Like, literally, I still remember the day that I watched the video for Smells Like Teen Spirit for the first time. I had come home from school early, and I got a snack, and I went in the living room and turned on the TV, and it was left on MTV from the night before. And I turned the TV, and that infamous opening riff, and dude, I literally stood there. I literally stood in front of the TV the entire length of the video, and at that moment it began, and that's when I was like 13 going on 14. So, and before that I was into like Phil Collins and things like that, but he's a drummer, so it it kind of makes sense, but it was a natural gradual progression. So I went from like Phil Collins, I skipped over the hair metal and went straight to grunge, is what happened to me.
Makes sense, but I can see that progression.
You know what I mean? Like it just kind of just skipped.
I want to ask you a question that I don't know why I've never asked you before, but who, of all of the things that you've named a lot of, influential singers, performers, musicians, Phil Collins, who inspires you specifically in the music that you make now, or even, before when you first started?
Oh, wow. That's a good question, because I don't know if it's any specific person. I think it's the creations that artists create that inspire me. Because unfortunately, when you take a closer look at artists are very, tormented, interesting individuals, and they have their eccentricities, excuse me, when you delve too deep. And if you dig too deep, then you end up not liking the person, and you know what I mean? I or Kelly. Anyway, so that being said, if I don't want to have that conversation of like, do I like separate the man from the art? I just take it from the music, right? And so when growing up, it was more of the compositions, right? Like Phil Collins is an asshole. but he's an amazing drummer, right? So, you know, growing up, it was literally just the songs that moved me, that inspired me. And it was like, man, like I have a really huge affinity for melody, and for song structure. And, you know, that's what moves me and that's what influences me, whether it's classical music, whether it's pop music, you know, whether, you know, rock is just something that the sound of the guitar and the arrangements and the loudness and the dynamics of the music is what drives me to love that genre as much as I do, because that is a genre that accurately expresses what I have in here and what's up here, right? Um, so it's not an individual person that inspires me. It's very much more just their compositions and their bodies of work that they do. And it may not be a whole song. It may just be like, you know, a bridge. It may be just a hook. Like there are a lot of songs that are just trash, but the hooks are amazing. Like, you know, and there's like, it could be literally anything, Hillary. Like I think someone had told me something the other day, and I typed it down. It could just be like something, someone saying something, and I'm like, man, that's awesome. I need to either use that or write something like that. Um, yeah, so someone had said something to me, and I wrote it down. Always make a good time out of the misery. And I was like, you know what? That's going to make a great follow up EP to my first one that I'm dropping this year. It's stuff like that. Like I just hear stuff. I'm like, man, that's like the coolest thing. And then those things inspire me and keep me going in creatively. It's not just one person, because you know everyone has hills and valleys in their creative process, right? Sometimes people are on fire for, you know, 3 4 5 years, and then they have a lull and they put out trash, and then they end up, you know, getting back on top again. So um yeah, it's just it's their creations, it's not the people. So that would be my long-winded answer to your question.
That's good. I feel that. I also feel that about the one-liners, just because I think that's another thing in poetry and story writing.
Mm.
You'll find, I don't know how many notes in my phone that have one sentence that I'm like, this someone says something. Someone says this somewhere in my writing. I just don't know what character yet. I've not built that person's world yet, but it exists and needs it's
Yes,
cool.
exactly. It's like that show, The Greatest American Hero, and the theme song is "Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. On air. I never thought I could feel so free, flying away on a wing in a prayer." And I'm like, that hit me like at age 8. I was like, flying away in a wing in a prayer, like that has stuck with me for like my whole life. It literally is things like that, like you said. It's like one liners that just hit. And when it's something about the English language, when you just piece things together properly, it's like it's magic. And it's just like, man, like that really hits. And so
Yep.
it's a constant thing in my life. It just something will be said and it'll hit, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's awesome, and I have to, you know. So yeah, that's what influences me and motivates me to keep going.
Amazing. Our good old English language.
Well,
Since we're
I
talking
mean,
about this, I don't know when else I'd ever bring this up. Like I'm a full disclosure, I'm secretly a huge fan of like Cat Stevens, Simon and Garfunkel.
okay, okay,
Just
okay.
everyone who's listening, Black people can like everything. Like I
Parsley,
grew up
sage,
on that
rosemary, and
70s.
thyme. Let's get it.
Oh, we know about you, Hillary.
Listen, Simon has more talent than Garfunkel, though. Let's be honest.
Oh,
You know,
obviously.
yeah. Come on.
So what's it like? Were you doing audio engineering and producing in New York?
Yes, I was. What happened was I graduated from high school, and I had this grand dream of going to NYU, and I didn't get in, and it devastated me. And then I thought I wanted to design cars, and then I applied to MIT, and I got accepted, and I did the entrance interview. I think I told you guys this story. And I went to the entrance interview, and the admin chick who was doing the interview, she's like, you know what? I read your entrance essay, and she's like, I'd be doing a great disservice to you by going forward with your admission. She's like, because I read your essay, and you're an extremely creative person. She's like, basically, we're going to give you a textbook, and we're going to give you a laptop, and we're going to shove you into a corner. We're going to tell you to do math. And she's like, that's what we're going to expect you to do 24/7. And she's like, that's not you. I can know it's not you, no matter how much you like cards, it's not you. Because in your essay, I can clearly see you and not this guy. So sorry, but not sorry. And at the time, I was devastated because again, it's the second school that I got, you know, rejected at. But in hindsight, I thank that woman, whose name I do not know, because she literally had the guts and the backbone to free me from a life of misery, and wasted time in my life. And so after that, I went ahead and I opened up the Yellow Pages, the old school phone book, and I went ahead and just started calling studios. I was like, listen, I'm looking to intern. I want to learn. You guys, taking interns, and I ended up at a studio called Silverbolt Studios. It was on 28th Street between 7th and 8th Avenue, and I started out there, and literally, the old school stories of like running for donuts and getting coffee, I did it. I ran for coffee, I cleaned the bathrooms, and then you stick around. And back in the day, for those who don't know, when you had to learn audio engineering, you did one of two things. You either went to school and paid a bunch of money. So in New York, there's a school called the Institute of Audio Research. I don't know if they're still around or not, but at the time they were. And they had an audio engineering course. It's kind of like the bullshit courses that they give at like Mackenzie and like Eastern College and NBCC. It's like, like a 10-month program. You pay like $15,000 and you get a certificate at the end that allows you to do like the bare entry minimum of what the job is supposed to be. That's what the school did. So I went there and I filled out the application for that, and it was 15 grand. I was like, well, I don't have 15 grand. So I went to the Yellow Pages and called around, and I started out at Silverbolt and did the running around. And back in the day, you just hung around the studio and hoped that an engineer would take pity on you and show you what a button did or what that flashing light meant, right? And it was the luck of the draw. Sometimes the engineers were total assholes, which I encountered, or some guys were really helpful. So when I started out, Silverbolt Studios was run by a bunch of guys who actually were the latter. They were very helpful. They were from California. They moved to New York. They started the studio, and they wanted to really help interns learn. So once a week, they would shut down the studio in the evening and have the interns come in, and they would actually show you how to use the board, how to use, equalizers and compressors, and they would give you the manuals to read and things like that. And then on the weekend, you could come in and actually record stuff on your own. They had like old ADAT tapes that you could record on and things like that. So my entry into the audio engineering world was a very nice one and very pleasant. After Silverbolt Studios, I ran into the assholes. And so at that point,
Okay.
I started running into the jerks and the dicks. And you got to understand that audio engineering, much like everything else in this world, is, it can be very racially charged. Here you have a bunch of white dudes running studios. And here's this young black kid coming into a white studio talking about, I want to learn. And they expect you to either just be ignorant, thuggish, or just do whatever the fuck they say because you're so desperate to learn. And at that time, like you were saying, hip hop was coming in that rise. Puffy was starting to, sample the fuck out of everything and make tons of money. So hip hop was on the rise, and everyone was wanting to do that genre. But the old school studios that were doing jazz and rock and pop were still thriving as well because CDs were still making money, and home studios were not at the point that they are now. So if you still wanted to do a professional recording, you still had to do the studio thing. And so my thing was, I didn't go to hip hop studios to intern. My dumbass went to the regular studios because growing up, that's where my dad went. My dad went to Waterfront Studios in Hoboken. So it was a white run. That's what we did. So I grew up in the studio. So it just made sense to me to go to those type of studios.
But
Not real.
what was I want to know what it was like when you got to New Brunswick though. And also, like, I hear you. In Toronto, I went to the Harris Institute for the Arts for 2 semesters, and I did learn a lot there. That was one of the more accredited music schools in Toronto. But after that, I left and I just started calling around random studios. I didn't finish. I went there for like a year. I didn't finish. And I just started asking, like, will you take me as an intern? And eventually this guy took me in, and I learned more from him than I learned from anyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That New York background story is wild. I feel like that's really insightful. I love hearing stuff like that. But what was it like when you got to New Brunswick? What is the past 19 years of being a producer in New Brunswick like, out here in the East Coast Maritimes? What are some of your experiences there that you came across?
Yeah, I ended up picking, not by choice, the one province with no music industry. I didn't do my research before I got here. If I was going to do music, like everyone, knows, you probably should have landed in Nova Scotia. Now PEI has a very thriving music industry over there. They've done a really great job over the past 10, 15 years of ramping up and getting funding for their stuff. And they're doing it the right way. Just to put that out there, they seem to have like learned from everyone's mistakes. and they're starting off right. So they're starting off inclusive. They're starting off on the right foot, which I give them a lot of credit for. Here in New Brunswick, there is no music industry. Fuck Music New Brunswick. Fuck all of them. And I say that with the intense amount of emotion that is required. And I say that because you have an entity here called Music New Brunswick that is federally funded, and their job is specifically to foster music and talent and to find music and talent within the province, thus the title of Music New Brunswick. And here we have an entity that is federally funded. And when is the last time that you've ever seen Music New Brunswick put on a showcase to find talent? When have you ever seen Music New Brunswick put on a concert series? When have you ever seen any Music New Brunswick do anything that does not put money into Music New Brunswick's pocket, i.e. the 506 festival that they put on every year? And even that, you have to go ahead, you have to pay to get nominated. And if they don't have enough people in the category to nominate you, then they just shove you into another category to make it enough people in a certain category. So you're not even going to be in a category and be judged for your music if there's not enough people in your genre that are being nominated. Then you have to buy tickets to the event. It's a whole hustle for me.
What was it like for you? Like, what was it like for you in New Brunswick over the years as a producer? Not like that one organization you don't like. What have your experiences been?
Well, that one organization, unfortunately, is part of my experience with them, right? So you're looking at a guy that, literally, opened up my studio. I was nominated for Music Business of the Year in 2014. I was nominated 3 times for Producer of the Year, and I was nominated 2 times for Recording Studio of the Year by Music New Brunswick. So this whole thing of them, shout out to 180 for winning the award, but let's be real. I just named 3 opportunities where they had a chance to nominate and to give an award to a black man, and they chose to do it now because now it's trendy. And now everyone's got a microscope on him. Nothing against 180. He's had a long career. He deserves it. And I'm not salty. I'm just making the point that Music New Brunswick does not get credit for giving a black man an award when I just named 3 opportunities when you had a chance to give someone an award who was a person of color. Just saying. Anyway, back to my experience.
Yeah, it's certainly surprising to be anywhere in the world and hear that, like, sorry, but like black people are a central, integral part of all music genres, like we just mentioned. It is surprising, even in a province with not a lot of black people, it's surprising to hear that no one's
ever
disturbing. Won. Not that 180 is not deserving, because he is, but it was a bit surprising for me to hear that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you look at a guy, and you look at the ECMAs. So you have a genre that is a black urban genre and who constantly gets nominated and wins awards and has been making a living off of black music. Classified. How the fuck is that possible? How the fuck is that possible? I'm not saying the man doesn't have some talent. He's got to have some talent, I assume. But let's be real. Like, how is it that the white boy gets nominated and wins on a consistent, regular basis? And he gets all the press, and it's like, oh, he's the golden child of hip hop. How the fuck? Listen, like I said, it's not the fact that he is who he is. It's the fact that you have entities and organizations, ECMA, Music New Brunswick, who are going ahead and choosing not to be inclusive and not to have their ear to the ground to find talent. You've got that Michael J. Fox guy here. This dude is dropping mixtapes like every week. Every week. This dude stays in the studio. He lives in the studio. You mean to tell me they don't know about this guy? You mean to tell me that you can't throw him a nomination? You mean to tell me that his work ethic and his grind isn't worth spotlighting and highlighting? You see what I mean? Like, so my experience is a part of the Music of New Brunswick disdain. I know that when I started my studio, everyone assumed that I was a hip hop producer just because I'm a tall black man. So they assumed, well, that's all I could do. So I took it and I ran with it. So I was like, okay, fine. If that's what you think, then whatever. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And that was a bit disturbing for me because it didn't give me a chance to be me. I literally had to be, a facet of myself. But, I am a drummer. I'm a songwriter. Like, I compose music. I making beats is great, but that's really not what I do. I'm a tactile guy. So I like beating on a drum. I like playing guitar. That's what I like doing. And for everyone to assume that that was all I could do and to pigeonhole me that way, artists and industry included, was very frustrating. And it made running the studio very stressful. It made dealing with artists very stressful, because again, everyone only assumed that that was the only lane that I was capable of thriving in. And if and I had clients that came in, if they did rock or whatever, they would always either second guess me or question me and question my skill set. So, oh, well, what kind of mics are you using? Or, excuse me, oh, well, do you know how to do this? Or, oh, and always trying to find, holes in my work, because they assume that I didn't know how to record drums acoustically. I didn't know how an acoustic guitar is supposed to sound acoustically. I don't know what proper, so even clientele wise, it put a rift and a barrier between my interaction with them, because they assumed one thing, what they heard or what they assumed by just seeing me, and then again, not allowing me to actually flourish and be the person, the producer that I am. So
I actually wanted to touch on that, and maybe we can elaborate a bit more, because I had the privilege of interviewing you for buyblacks.com, and I was happy with that piece, but I did want to give you an opportunity to talk more, although you did touch on it now, about your experience and how much of that was through a lens of racism. And I know there's a lot of the conversation about music New Brunswick, unfortunately, is, I think, a bit of white boys club, sort of self-serving, and I can understand that opinion where it comes from. I definitely don't know enough about it. But even I remember, talking when we did that interview about how it felt like you were constantly having to check yourself, to validate your identity as a Black musician, regardless of what you were playing. And I just wanted, if you could elaborate more on what that experience was like for you, how it was different in New Brunswick, and if, did that take a mental toll on you? Did it make you ever want to give up playing music? Because having to constantly reassure people that you deserve to be in that space as a Black woman is exhausting, and I'm not even trying to make music.
No, absolutely. Listen, you probably know exactly what that feels like, because it is probably very similar. It's one of those things where, like I said, earlier, it made running the studio. Like, I started the studio because I enjoy audio engineering and I enjoy music, and I started making beats. My son was born because I stayed home with him for the first 2 years. I didn't have my drums, so that's when I started making beats. You know, I started the studio to help people and to be that, just to be that guy that just did good music, you know. And it over the course of the 5 years, it was very stressful. And it did. I listen, I shut the studio down for years. I shut it down in 2018, 2019. And I just stopped. I had no motivation to create. I had no more, even to play drum. I just had none. I had fought for so many years, like you just said, and like I stated in that piece. I spent so many years fighting consistently to prove to people that I was more than their assumptions. Right. And it didn't have to be just verbal. It was, either looks, or when you enter into a room, or, you getting, overlooked for different opportunities because oh, I didn't know you had a studio. Oh, I didn't know you recorded. Oh, I didn't know you played drums. Oh, I didn't know you could do that. Well, motherfucker, you never asked. You know what I mean? And quite frankly, you assumed. Right. So you got this half-ass motherfucker playing drums or doing whatever. And because you made an assumption, your shit now sounds like trash, when you could have just asked me and I would have done it right. Not to mention, on that same note, I've had tons of clients who have come to me and they'll say they have a project, and I'll say, okay, well, this is my professional opinion. Oh, well, I don't know, I'm gonna go ask around, and they go to some white dude and they overpay, and the dude fucking fleeces them for their money, and the song sounds like shit. And then guess what happens 6 years later? I get the phone call. Oh, yeah, remember me? Yeah, I remember you. Oh, yeah, well, I found so-and-so to do my song, and he charged us blah, 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 thousands of dollars, and we only got one song done, and it sounds like shit. It didn't sound the way you... Okay, well, then I guess you should have listened to the Black man in the first place. Now it's going to cost you double to fix it. That's my haha. But at the end, you know, that dealing with that consistently over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, you know, is, you know, I was given voice lessons recently to a young little white girl. Her mom wanted her to be a singer. She wanted to be a singer. That was great. And even that was consistently like they went to another producer here in town and he fleeced them for a good year of their money. Girl didn't learn how to sing. The songs he produced were trash. And she comes to me and she's like, "Oh, we're not happy with him." I'm like, "Okay, well, this is what we're going to do." And no one's happy. And the girl's like, "Oh, well, you're asking me to do too much work. I don't want to sing these songs." Well, guess what, chickie? You want to sing, you got to sing songs. And you got to sing something else than, I'm sorry, Hillary, Harry fucking Styles. Like, I don't know, like, you know what? Like, when you go to singing auditions, people in the industry don't want to hear Harry Styles. They want to hear, that's facts though. They don't want to hear that.
No.
They don't want to hear pop music, right? They want to know that you can sing. So she wanted to get mad because I was telling her to sing Fleetwood Mac and, you know, Elton John, you know, songs. She didn't want to sing it. Well, what do you do at that point? Now what do I do? Now I'm the big black man making the little white girl sing songs she don't want to sing. That's a very awkward spot for me to be in.
Yeah,
right?
There's definitely key songs out there that you need to learn to sing those, to train your vocal cords to do certain things. And that's just an essential,
and Watermelon Sugar is not one of them. I'm sorry, Hillary. It's just not one of them songs.
Like playing a piano is like singing. You gotta do the fundamentals and the technicals to get to where you want to be with
that's
your
true,
voice.
Clayton. Yes,
Hillary's looking. Go ahead, Hillary. Go.
I just want to say that the funniest part about that is if this girl was a real Harry Styles fan, she would be singing the songs that inspired him to be a singer, which are literally the artists you named. That's actually the funniest bit about all of this, is that his biggest inspirations are Fleetwood, Elton John, Rolling Stones. His own music sucks. I'll say it. Watermelon Sugar's trash. And
it's trash.
Good laugh.
But she's just singing that song. And I was like, this is not a song. I'm like, this is not a song.
There's you gotta variation in octaves.
You gotta get there.
But my thing is that, you know, like, you know, her parents were like, well, you know, and I knew their hesitation was mainly because of the fact that here I am, this black man trying to tell you how to sing, and you doubt my credibility and my credentials because of my skin color, not because of anything else. Because you assume automatically that I'm a big black man, so therefore I must only know hip hop and R&B and rap, and so I must not know what I'm talking about. And yes, it's an emotional toll. It's a mental toll. Like I said, I went for years not wanting to play drums, not being creative at all. And, you know, going on 2.5 years ago, I finally got that spark again. And, you know, now I have my band and things are great, but I'm finally doing music that I want to do. I'm finally producing, you know, music and composing stuff and writing the songs that I want to write. And I have a team, you know, and I have my band that, you know, that are on the same page, and it's a beautiful thing, and it's something that I didn't think I'd be able to do again. And I'm very happy that I am able to do it again. Because there's, you know, it's been a very liberating and freeing experience, and I'm really enjoying this creative process. And you know, I mean, there was a time when I didn't think I'd be able to write songs again. Like, you know, I've been writing songs forever. I had a band when I first moved here called Delivery back in 2002. And you know, I wrote all their songs. I wrote their song. I wrote 26 songs when my son was born. I had like this massive like floodgate of like just blah. And so I'll stop tapping the table, yes. And so I had this massive blah when my son was born, just an outpouring of stuff, of music and stuff. And I honestly, I looked for a while, I looked at those songs and I'm like, man, I'll never be able to write like this again. And, you know, the past, like I said, 2.5 years, I've been able to write songs again and you know, and just, you know, learn new things on the drums. And so it's good. It's good. But yes, it's the races that you encounter here in New Brunswick because of assumptions. And like we said earlier, you know, New Brunswick is a time capsule. And I don't understand why it is, but it truly is a time capsule. And you have individuals here, young and old, who are dead set on holding on to a point in time where they're allowed, or they feel they're allowed to just, you know, do and say and be any way they want to other people. And you know, just outside of music, it's very tiring living here in New Brunswick. You know what I mean? Like I go for, walks and, and I go to the park and, I got to deal with, going around the park and there's a chick who's walking and now I got to think, okay, well, I'm walking at a certain pace. I know she's walking super slow. If I walk at this pace, I'm going to catch up to her. When I catch up to her, now I got to make sure that I announce myself, say, excuse me, move over 3 feet, and then run past her so that she doesn't get any ideas that this black man is chasing her, harassing her, stalking. You know what I mean? Like it's dumb shit like that still that, it's tiring. It's tiring. I'm weary.
Can I comment one quick thing? I mean,
sure, man.
It is wild. I was woken at like 1 a.m. last night with fire trucks and ambulance and police cars outside of my country home in the middle of nowhere on this highway. And I guess a car had flipped over in front of my house and turned on its side. So I watched from the window for a while and I wanted to go outside, but I was like afraid to go outside.
Bad business, on my own property. Stay indoors.
Yeah. And then I did go outside and the cop car was in front of my house and there was another one down the road. And I made sure I stayed like 30, 40 feet away. I wanted to see what was happening. I wanted to make sure there was no danger of this car exploding or anything like that. But I'm on my own property at 1 a.m. in the morning and I was afraid to go close to the police. It doesn't mean the police was a bad person by any means. It's just this same thought, like the thoughts that probably women of color have all the times too, but definitely men of color have all the times, about just that mental 180. Talked about that when I talked to him last week. That mental check you have to do all the time just to like constantly try not to be perceived as dangerous. So yeah, I feel you, man. I feel you. It's
weird.
Wild.
My last blog was a poem about this inner monologue of the woman. Not only I can't be like black and afraid of being black, but I also have to be afraid of being a woman and being perceived as small and like rapeable, for a lack of a better term. But like all of those mental gymnastics are exhausting all the time, and adding a racial element to it is the worst.
And you guys know in the media space, and I'm sure Hillary, you probably experienced this, when your skill set is, as good or better than your counterparts, and you have individuals making assumptions all the time about you and about what you're capable of, and I didn't realize you could do blah. What kind of fucking statement is that? And that's just consistent. That's consistent, in every area of creativity here in Canada, but in New Brunswick especially. I have a communications degree. I can't do a fucking thing with that. 'Cause, what am I going to do? You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where, the first labor jobs I ever worked was here in New Brunswick, because like in New York, I worked for a music copywriter and I worked for record labels. Like I never, even thought about doing labor. And then I come here and, I had to make my living doing labor, because no one wanted to acknowledge the fact that I actually had some sort of aptitude and some sort of intelligence. Right. So it's, it's even in my personal life. Like I was telling my wife, like I'm tired of being perceived as just the big, strong guy who will like protect things and people. Like I want to do something else. I want to be perceived as something else. Right. And so it's, it's exhausting here on a lot of levels, but creatively, it's definitely been a challenge. Just putting out music and dealing with the industry individuals here, it's definitely an uphill climb, and really after 20 years, it really shouldn't be. It really, really shouldn't be, but it is. You look at the ECMAs, they claim they were doing diversity panels, like that term blows my mind. Like, what the fuck is a diversity panel, and why do I need to have a fucking panel to know that the shit that I've been doing is wrong, right? I need a 3-day summit to figure out that me not nominating
need the panel. You don't need the panel. They need the panel.
But a 3-day summit, a 3-day summit, Hillary, to do what?
Let them spend the money.
And then, did you see the nominees for this year's ECMAs?
Yeah, let's not get there. Let's not go into.
No one learned shit. No one learned a damn thing. Not a fucking thing. 3-day summits, 1-week online summits, all this other diversity training and shit. And what did they learn? Did you see the nominees for ECMA this year?
Yeah, I wonder, and I mean, we gotta. Oh, go ahead, Hillary. I'm so sorry.
No, I was just gonna say very briefly that I was asked to submit diversity stuff for a specific organization in New Brunswick for Black History Month. We're 5 days out of Black History Month, and the work's not done. Accountability with certain groups of people is not strong. And we all just try our best. And we hope as Black people, we get recognized.
Yes.
Yeah.
Clinton, what were you going to say?
No, I think we were going to ask you, we wanted to talk to you about a couple
Echo
of things
7.
with you musically, but I just want to say, do you think possibly, like you said, Classify, he gets all these bags, he gets all this grant money from the government, and so do a lot of New Brunswick artists who are maybe of a different persuasion. Do you think the lack of nominees and entries into these organizations, ECMA, Music New Brunswick, is due to a lack of the people here knowing how to get involved in the industry, having a lack of access and connections? Maybe the Music New Brunswick needs to do better to search for and reach out to Black artists, because you do have to be a member of these organizations to be nominated. You can't just have good music, correct?
Yeah, and you're absolutely correct about that. And I think you're correct in the fact that Music New Brunswick needs to do better. Music New Brunswick does not reach out to any other community besides primarily the Francophone, in my opinion, and some of the Anglophone, depending on who you are.
And maybe asks them to sign up, like gets them to sign up, finds
and that's what I was saying earlier. Like, I've gone to so-called SOCAN information sessions at Music New Brunswick, and they were done exclusively in French. And I show up and I'm like, okay, well, where's the English version? Well, what do you mean? This information is supposed to be for everybody, not just for your pals and your friends and friends of friends, right? And here's the thing. I'm not shitting on Francophone artists. Francophone artists, do your thing. What I'm shitting on is the organizations favoring you and saying that this is going to be the poster child of what New Brunswick does musically. Okay? Music New Brunswick needs to alter and update its mandate. And if you're going to just go ahead and just favor the organization that's giving you funding, which is Heritage, Culture, and Tourism, then just say so. Don't say you're Music New Brunswick for all music in New Brunswick, because that's not the case. They do not have information sessions in other language besides French, and English. They're not doing any in any African languages or anything in any Middle Eastern languages or in Asian languages. They're not doing it. They're not doing it. Indigenous, damn sure they're not. Okay, you know what I mean? They're not doing it. And the few Indigenous artists that do come through are very white passing, in my humble opinion. That's how I feel. Jeremy Dutcher, nothing but love for the guy, but he's a white boy. Like, let's just be real. Like, he's very easy on the eyes, and you know what? They love him. Okay, but he's the poster boy right now for Indigenous music. Okay, so when you look at what they will do when it comes to them being on, put under the microscope and saying, what are you doing to be diverse? That's how they're moving, and they're not going. And there's so much talent here. There's so much talent here. Like, there are tons, immigrants come here, repeatedly, and they're so talented. There's so many talented musicians here that are doing Afro, that are doing, different types of Middle East, or who are just doing rap. That we have, I've had musicians from India, from Dubai, contact me about beats, because over there they're having an explosion in hip hop right now. So Music New Brunswick, and like I said earlier, they're not doing enough in the community. They're not putting on showcases. They're not having open information sessions. They're not having kiosks in the mall, in the store saying, hey, are you an artist? Fill out this card. Give us your basic information. We'll send you some information via email, or here's a pamphlet. They're not doing anything out there to reach people where they are. And it's a very closed off group. And I know they'll say in response, oh no, our doors are always open. You can find us in the Aberdeen Center. Just come through any time of day. Yeah, that's cute to say, but that's not you getting out there and reaching the community. Right? If you are a community entity and you are supposed to be about music in this province and building an actual infrastructure and ecosystem for musicians, that's going to entail you leaving the office and creating initiatives in the community to get people interested, like you said, to get the information out. And yes, you're absolutely correct. The number of nominations that come in are primarily from white artists. Mm-hmm. And so, again, you're charging fees for nominations. You're not getting out there looking for artists of color specifically. And so therefore, yeah, you end up with this pool of mostly white men and a few white women sprinkled in every year. And so, yes, the money keeps going and gets recycled. And again, I'm sure Classified's a hardworking guy. The thing about Classified that bothers me is the fact that he is the poster child for urban music in the Maritimes, which is troubling to me. Right? I don't understand. Like, I'm quite sure that there have been and are Black artists that have been around as long as Classified, who have put out as much material as Classified, and who are not getting that type of recognition and clout within the industry. So yes, Music Project definitely needs to do more to get out there and to do more of a grassroots campaign to get people interested and to get people the information that's required. Because I have clients all the time that come to me and they don't know about SOCAN, they don't know about ISRC codes, they don't know about even the grant programs. They're like, they heard someone talk about it, or someone mentioned to them that, oh, they think Music New Brunswick will give you money. Well, what is that about? You know what I mean? So that the fact that you have artists coming to me as a producer and as a musician, and as a studio owner, asking these questions, shows that Music New Brunswick is not out there being proactive in giving the information to our very diverse community that exists here in New Brunswick.
I want to ask, of course, before we start to wrap it up and we can stop making this about Classified, more importantly, about Echo 7. I want to know more about Echo 7. You guys have a single coming out soon. You haven't even told us enough about this band yet. So please tell us what's up with the band, what's up with the single.
Okay. Echo 7 was started 2.5 years ago. We are a 5-piece alt metal, hard rock, post grunge band. That is what we do. We do all original music. We released 3 singles independently. That got the attention of a label in the States called Curtain Call Records. They are affiliated with Sony, and we signed a 2-year deal last year with them. We released 2 singles with them under the Sony imprint. And this year we are on schedule to release, I believe, another 3 plus an EP. So the single that is going to be released first this year is called Keep From Breaking. Very excited for the song. This song is going to show our growth as a band, my growth as a producer, as an engineer in this genre, because I had to relearn how to mix and master and engineer for the modern sound that I wanted. I'm used to doing grunge records, which is very much put a mic in a room and and go for it. But today's rock is very, very it's quantized, it's very clean. There's a lot of synth elements in there. And so it borders on that line of kind of electronic music depending on the band. And the genre is so wide and diverse now. So but Echo 7, there's like I said, there's 5 of us. We have a female lead singer, Stephanie Roy. Marcus LeBlanc is our lead guitar player. Justin Laracy is our rhythm guitar player, and Luke Smith is our bass player, and I, Allon McCall, am the drummer. We have a show coming up here locally, April 9th at Lexi's Lounge. That'll be our first show of this year. We managed to actually sneak in 2 shows last year during our lockdowns, which was quite exciting. But this year we actually have like 4 lined up so far and counting. So hopefully as festivals, come on board, we'll be getting the call. But Echo 7 is a great band. Like I said, we do all original music. It's a hard rock sound. We've got chunky guitars and heavy drums, and I write about my emotions. And that's basically what it is. And I try, but the thing is, I'm trying to be very motivational in my writing as well. So there's songs about struggle, but there are also songs about triumph. So in the end of the song, the songs always end up victorious. So the song may start out about talking about whatever the problem or the issues are, the struggle is, but the song also has a message of growth and progression and motivation of you can get through whatever it is that you're going through. And so that's what we do. That's who we are. And I'm very excited for the EP that's going to be entitled X-Ray in Use. It'll probably be a 5-track EP.
And there's a single coming out soon, right?
Yeah, Keep From Breaking is the single. We delivered all the assets to the label. We're just waiting for a release date, literally. So as soon as that release date comes out, hopefully it'll be out before the end of April, is the plan. So that's who we are. That's what we do.
What's the song about?
Keep From Breaking is a song that I wrote My previous employer decided to mismanage funds and go bankrupt, and which was really fucked up because I reached the level of regional
mismanaged
manager,
funds.
and and I was so excited. I'm like, yes, I'm regional manager, and they go under. But what spurred the song was the way that the company dealt with the employees during the downfall, and I was on several conference calls with employees who hadn't gotten paid for 2 months, 3 months. And you could hear the desperation in their voice. They're like, my rent needs to get paid. I got car notes. What am I going to do? You said there was going to be money. You said there was going to be money. And I'm listening to the president. I'm listening to the COO. I'm listening to everyone lie to these people and be like, oh no, there's going to be money there. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Friday, there'll be money. Friday comes and goes and there's no money. And so that really bothered me in a very real way. And Justin wrote the riff, and it was like a voice note. And so anyway, I do my writing in various places. I don't have one set place where I do my writing. And so I was driving. I was actually on my very last armored run that I was doing for them, and I had the voice note, and I'm playing it on a loop, and I wrote the song in like 40 minutes. I'm driving and writing the song. Yep. And so literally, like, and it was funny because I'd write the first verse and I'd tell the band in the group chat, first verse done. 10 minutes later, second verse done. 10 minutes later, hook's done. And then it got to a stoplight. I record the melody in a voice note, right? And I was like, here, song's done. And that's how the song came about. The song is about not just that situation, but it's more of a general umbrella of just, you know, when you go through a situation where you're not being listened to, you're not being heard, and someone's patronizing you, and they keep patronizing you. And, you know, the chorus, the hook of the song is, if I ask the question why, would you choose another lie? Would you pretend that this is not my heart you keep on breaking? But if you ask the question why, don't be surprised to see me cry. It's the only thing that I can do to keep from breaking you. So the hook is about you being patronized, but the only thing you can do in that moment is cry, because if you don't do something, you're going to hurt that person who's affecting you. So again, this song is about you being in pain, but in the end, you are the one in control, because this is the only thing that I can do to keep from breaking you right now. So don't mistake my crying for me being weak and being unable to do anything right now. I'm taking the higher road right now, even though I know you think you're in control. But if I were to let myself go, this would be totally different. And that's what the song is about. So it's about you having self-control and having, you know, the poise to get through it and be the bigger person.
I didn't know that we needed a theme song, but I feel like maybe, I don't know about other people who've maybe experienced something like this, but I think we could have a theme song. We should definitely at least play it. I think that sounds like an amazing theme.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Those lyrics were fire.
Yeah.
You know, writing songs with voice notes in a car is a great way to write music. I gotta be honest with you.
It is.
You do tend to come up with some things, and yeah, I really feel the concept. I can't wait to hear it. I mean, having all been members of a previous organization, I mean, I can relate to some of those concepts. Not maybe in the song, but with your past workplace.
Well, any situation, like I said, it's I wrote the song in a way where it's not, the lyrics are not like about this company. I write in very general terms.
Yeah.
And one of the tricks with this band also is that I have to write lyrics that a girl can sing, and it sounds like she wrote it. So I have to be very cognizant of that when I'm writing, right? You know, the first verse is, I can't even tell your fact from fiction, leaving me inside another mess, the same excuse and expectations tattooed upon the souls you want to dress. I cannot fear the moments coming. I wander through the thunder and the rain. You can't hear my voice, I'm drowning, but in the end, I guess it's all the same. And then, so that's right. So,
fire.
Thank you. I appreciate that, guys. Really, thank you. I that means a lot.
Yeah.
I wonder sometimes. I'm like, can I write? Because everyone's a songwriter now, right? Like, watermelon sugar, right? I mean,
it's too bad that song hasn't been released as of the date that we're releasing this episode, because we would love to end the podcast with that song. We are going to end with something else, but I have some other quick questions for you. Where are they? Oh, are you still taking clients, by the way? And if so, how can listeners reach out to you and contact you? If not,
I
I'll go on
am
to the next question.
no, I am taking clients. I'm in a very very fortunate situation where I'm being very particular about the clients that I take on. I.e., that if you're going to waste my time, don't bother. But if you are serious about your craft and you want to do work and you're looking to pursue this music thing seriously, I'm definitely willing to talk and meet and discuss. And so I do more consulting than I do recording now, but the studio is open to record. If you want to reach the studio, you can email us at TheWeMusic@gmail.com. That is the best way to reach the studio. And yeah, just shoot me an email and just say, hey, like I heard about you and this is what I'm looking to do. And I'm always down to talk about the industry, always down to talk about, music in general. And I usually don't charge for the consult either. If you want to talk and ask questions and just pick my brain about, what you feel your next move should be, or, marketing advice or whatever, just shoot me an email. We'll set up a phone call. We'll talk. That's always free. Information is free. I'm not gonna, I don't do that. I don't believe in that. Now, if you come to record, I'm charging you. But to give you information is free. I have no problem educating people, because the more artists are educated, that's how you build a scene. That's how you build an industry. Giving people information, right?
Amazing. That leads into my very next question. So to any listeners, whoever they are, if they want to get more involved in the industry here in New Brunswick, anyone, especially Black people, because there is a definite lack. There's a lot of musicians, and there's even a lot of French musicians that have come here from Africa, who are killing it with like those Afro beats nowadays. What kind of advice do you have for people wanting to get their real foot in the real door here in New Brunswick's industry?
There is no industry here to get your foot in. That's the
Okay.
problem, right?
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so basically, it comes down to, we live in a digital age, as everyone knows. You don't need an industry or an association to distribute your music, to record your music. What you need to do is educate yourself on how the music business works, and there are certain fundamental things that you should do and that you should know. So my advice, like I just said, find someone who is knowledgeable. My door is always open. If you have questions about, registering your music, about, what proper distribution methods you should go through, suggestions on, who to do artwork with or who to do videos with or whatever. I have no problem, again, sharing that information. But I think the most important thing for any artist or any person of color doing music in New Brunswick is just educate yourself on the industry, and truly understand that you need to be self-sufficient. Depending on getting grants is not the way to fund your career, because those grants will dry up. They're based on, sometimes there's like Arts New Brunswick is based on a panel that changes literally every cycle with the grants. Music New Brunswick, they have their own way of doing things. You can't count and rely on grants to fund your art. You're going to have to fund it yourself. So understand that first and foremost, but just get educated, just learn how the business works, learn what it means to be an independent musician. And that's how you can create a career for yourself. And just understand that's going to take investment and money and time. It's the long game. You're not going to hit the whole, one hit wonder thing is a gamble. Think of your career as a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
We're both so happy. We're all friends. So it was really good having you on, especially while I'm under the weather. Such a good episode to give me comfort. If people want to find you other than consulting stuff, social media stuff, Echo 7, what are all of the social medias to find you at?
Okay, let's start with the band. So @_Echo 7 on Instagram, Twitter. That's where you can find the band. We have a Facebook page, again, _Echo 7. You can find us on
7 or spelt 7?
Spelled 7. So _ECHOSEVEN.
Okay.
That's where you can find us. Myself is Allon McCall on Instagram, and I believe it's TheWeMusic on Twitter. I'm also on LinkedIn, if anyone does that anymore. But yeah, the band, the most important thing, we have a YouTube channel. Our music is on all digital platforms, Apple Music, Spotify, just again, _ECHOSEVEN. You can find us everywhere. and I tag along with that. So
and you do behind the scenes on TikTok sometimes too. I've been quite proud. You do the TikToky sometimes.
do I?
You've Echo 7 TikToked.
I have. I need to start up again though. I've been slacking. I've been concentrating on Instagram lately, but yeah, thanks to your help, I know, and my son's help, I'm
Yes.
learning TikTok a lot more. It's still confusing to me, but I think I'm going to restart and see how we can go with this.
Good. We're so happy to have you on. And very quickly, before we segue to a potential song of yours that we want to play at the end, our socials: Clinton Davis, Cropberry, we are Blacklantic, blacklantic.ca, Blacklantic on TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. We have a GoFundMe. We would like money so we can have contributors do fun things. I'm never going to pitch it well because it's very weird, but we would like to make this a better thing all the time because we can always grow, and money makes things grow. So that exists. What am I forgetting? We drop video versions of this the same day that you are hearing this. So go check out our YouTube channel for the full episode and full interview if you want to see our fun reactions and see me coughing on this episode. Thank you to CHMA FM for broadcasting us Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Atlantic.
Ooh, that's a good time slot.
It is a good time slot.
Like if this were TV, that's a great time slot. Like that's prime. Right. That's like 60 minutes time slot. That's like like 60. Like when I was a kid, it was like 60 minutes at Knight Rider. Like that's like prime time slot right there. I like that. That's right. And I'm surprised. People. And you know what, you guys getting your getting on all the socials and not having to like amend it is very impressive. Congratulations on that too.
Thank you.
Didn't have to do like Blacklantic TV or Blacklantic Media. You just got your name. I think that's very cool. That's very cool.
We're pretty proud.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Yeah, yes. For sure.
And I think that's us.
Yeah, so we're gonna end the episode with music. Allon, have you had a chance to think throughout this episode of what you want the people to hear?
I'm going to suggest the first single that we released on the label, which is called Everything. And that song basically in a nutshell is just about you finding your inner strength to tell someone that you know that they exist because of you. So the hook is, you're thinking of the lies that you say to me hauntingly to watch me cry. I'm turning on the lights to make you stare at me and know that I am your everything. So the person who's abusing you or hating on you thinks that you need them, when in reality, they need you because you're fueling their life by existing.
Wow.
It's the way I think. It's just the way I think. I'm sorry.
Before we segue to the song, just consider a TikTok channel where you dramatically read the lyrics as entertainment to say, because I think with a good ambiance, I would be very into that too.
Well, I need your help then. I need your help. I think I need a deeper voice too. I need like a James Earl Jones type of.
We can craft it.
You know what I mean? I need something.
Your voice is pretty deep. I think
I need something dramatic. No, man. I need that Darth Vader dramatic.
What? No, you don't. No, you do not.
That's what I need.
My heart is.
That's what I need.
No, you don't. You need Hillary to give you some advice.
I do need Hillary
how to do the TikTok, because you don't need a Darth. I mean, maybe a Darth Vader. Maybe wear a Batman costume and read poetry that you wrote with the intent of a woman to sing it. It could be the next thing.
Listen, my charger's sitting comfortably in my
better.
garage right now.
Maybe you're right.
And now, Everything by Echo 7. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks for being our guest, Allon. Here it is.
Thanks.